Hi, I'm Emran, and this is
Inka.
And today, we're going to read you this book called The Titanic. Well, it's not really a bedtime story, although it's bedtime, but yeah.
Sorry everyone about that. I just have a little cold.
Let's see the first thing what it says.
Let's start reading.
The world's biggest ship, the
Titanic?
Yeah, is being built. The Titanic will be comfortable and safe. It will be able to carry more than 3,500 people. The Titanic is being built in Ireland. It will carry passengers between England and the United States of America. The hull of the Titanic was launched today. The hull is made out of steel. A huge crowd watched as the hull slid into the water for the first time. The rest of the ship will be finished over the next 10 months.
Get a pillow from me.
The Titanic was 269 meters long. It was as high as an 11-story building. Chapter 4, The First Voyage. The Titanic left England today on its first voyage. The Titanic will
stop
at France and Ireland to
Big
to pick up more passengers. Then the ship will sail to New York. More than 2,200 people will be on board the ship. The captain of the Titanic is Edward John Smith. Captain Smith will retire after this voyage. Many people think that the Titanic is unsinkable. People on the Titanic traveled in first class, second class, or third class. First class is the most expensive. First class passengers sleep in the best rooms. They also eat in the best restaurants. First class passengers can exercise in the gymnasium or swim in the pool. Second and third class passengers sleep in the comfortable rooms. They eat in good restaurants. The rooms and the food are better than what some passengers have at home. No wonder people call the Titanic a floating palace. The different classes were kept apart. They even have to walk on different sections of the ship. There are almost 900 people working on the Titanic. They are the crew. They look after the ship and the passengers. The crew have different jobs and work in different parts of the ship. Some of the crew work in rooms at the bottom of the ship. These are the boiler rooms. So, Titanic's boilers at the shipyard. This is what it looks like. The Titanic had 3 engines. Well, that's sort of impressive. Workers put coal into boilers. The coal burns, and this makes the water inside the boilers hot. The hot water turns into steam. The steam makes the ship's engines work. And this one's Chapter 7, Disaster at Sea. The Titanic hit an iceberg last night. The iceberg cut holes in the hull of the ship. Water flooded in through the holes and the ship sank. There is no news yet on the number of survivors. The Titanic was sailing in the North Atlantic Ocean when it hit the iceberg. So here's it when it was nearly drowning. This is most of the parts being drowned. It's being overflowed, broken in half, sinking all the way to the bottom. The Titanic broke in 2 before it sank. ate. 1,500 did. Over 1,500 people died when the Titanic sank. A lookout on the ship saw the iceberg before the Titanic hit. He gave a warning, but it was too late. The ship was moving too quickly. It could not be turned away in time. Many people were in bed when the disaster happened. People were told to put their life jackets and go up on deck. Today, ships must carry enough lifeboats for every person on board. Some people got into lifeboats, but there were not enough lifeboats for everyone in the ship. Many people fell into sea and died in the icy water. Other ships had sent messengers to the Titanic on the day of the disaster. The messengers were sent by wireless. The messages warned of icebergs nearby. Chapter 9. Rescue at Sea. Souvenirs from the Titanic have been rescued by another ship, the Carpathia. More than 700 souvenirs were found yesterday morning. They were in lifeboats floating in the North Atlantic Ocean. After the Titanic hit an iceberg, the crew tried to get help from other ships. The Titanic wireless operator sent out calls for help. Rockets were sent up into the air. Special lights were flashed. The wireless operator on the Carpathia heard the call for help, but the Titanic sank before the Carpathia arrived. Chapter 10. New York at last. The Carpathia arrived in New York last night. The souvenirs from the Titanic were on board. The Titanic souvenirs on board the Carpathia. And it says, Chapter 11, Finding the Wreck. The wreck of the Titanic has been found. The wreck is lying on the bottom of the North Atlantic Ocean. Scientists looked for the wreck from on board a ship. The ship pulled a special sled along under the water. The sled had video cameras on it. The sled sent pictures to the ship while it was pulled along. So this is like underwater sea thing. And 200 meters. It says most marine life is found above this depth. That means above this line, lots of fishes and creatures are found above this depth. And this far, 313 meters. No scuba divers has gone deeper than this. With this. And 1,000 meters, which is 1 kilometer. This is the start of the deep sea where it is very cold and too dark. Like just in about 8 minutes or 10 seconds, people could die in this cold. And the wreck is almost 3,800 meters under the sea. People cannot scuba dive this deep. Special machines are used to take pictures and get information. Chapter 12, Diving into the Wreck. So I see this is a picture of the boat. In the last week, scientists have made several dives into the wreck of the Titanic. The scientists have made the dives in a tiny submarine. The submarine is launched from a ship. The scientists landed the submarine on the wreck. They took photographs and video pictures. Chapter 13. Objects have been brought up from the wreck of the Titanic. A tiny submarine has been used to pick up the objects. The submarine has robotic arms. Some people believe that the wreck should be left alone. And this is a boarding pass, money, watches, and this is is chapter 14, Titanic timeline. In 31 March 1909, building starts on the Titanic, the world's biggest ship. So they like to start to build it. 31st of May 1911, which is 2 years later of 1909, the Titanic's hull is launched. 10 April 1912, which is 1 year later, the Titanic leaves on its first voyage. On 14 April 1912, which is like 4 days later after the Titanic was on voyage, the Titanic hits an iceberg late at night. And 15 April 1912, the Titanic sinks. Survivors are rescued by the Carpathia. 18 April 1912, the Carpathia arrives in New York with the survivors. 1st September 1985, the wreck of the Titanic is found. In July 1986, scientists reached the wreck of the Titanic in a submarine. July-September 1987, objects are brought up from the wreck of the Titanic. 1997, the film Titanic opens. In 2003, Ghosts of the Abyss, a film that shows the wreck, opens. And this is just the Goose Larry, which has words at the start like boiler, and then next to it it explains what it is. So that's this book is finished. And yeah, hope you enjoyed this video. Bye!